So most people think that the hard part about flipping is finding the deal, which is kind of true, but it's only half the battle. The other half of the battle is making sure that your renovation costs stay on budget or ideally go under budget and you're able to secure more profits. The minute you start going over budget, you put yourself in a position to have less profits and potentially even lose some money. So after you've done your homework, you've checked out the ARV, you've made sure that you know what your selling price is going to be once the project is completed. There's only really two places that you can really lose money after that. One is on the buy and the other is on the renovation budget. If you keep those in check, you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself a profitable flip. So when we are flipping, there are about, I would say, six things that hinge on your success. The six major factors I'm talking about is purchase price. So you want to make sure when you buy something that you're getting in at a very good price point. And ideally, almost always you want to be below market price because you're going to have additional costs that will get you at market price anyways. So you want to make sure that you're getting a very good price per square foot like I did in this last project. Controlling the budget. We anticipated about a $37,000 budget. It went up to about 40,000, but it didn't that wasn't going to make or break the entire deal. And if you do have a project where an extra 3 to 5k is going to make or break the project, you're probably not sitting on a good deal to begin with. You want to also ensure that the ARV is correct and you're not aiming too high, because if you aim too high and once you get in all your costs and you are anticipating something that is totally off, you will end up losing money. On the fourth condition or fourth factor, you want to make sure the contractor's speed, quality, and timeline are all efficient. You want to make sure these contractors are doing a good job and they're doing it in a speedy process at the same time. Because every day you're holding the condo is costing you money. In my case, my carrying cost was roughly about $100 a day. I was paying into the condo about $3,000 a month. So you want to make sure that you're being fast and efficient, and you're making sure there is good, strong quality in the work that you are doing. And then there's also exit costs. Don't discount them. Don't not look at them because they are there and they do exist. Exit costs consist of lawyer fees again because you are going to be selling, so you have to pay your lawyers one more time. And the big one is the mortgage break. If you are using traditional financing, you'll have a mortgage break penalty, and depending on the size of your mortgage, it can be anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 plus. It just depends on the size of the mortgage, but don't discount that in your pro forma. The four things that I want to take a look at today is the renovation costs, what went over in those costs, the best ROIs, and then the exit costs. Some of these costs are what some people forget and they don't put that in the pro forma, and that can affect their profit margins. So let's start off with the renovation costs. Here we have the entire list of what everything costs. We're going to quickly go over this and break this down into what was spent. So let's start off with our cabinets and built-ins. This was $6,400. Again, I think this is on the cheaper end of things compared to some of the other vendors that we looked at, but still one of our higher costs. And the reason why this cost was higher than anticipated as well is because we did the second part right up here is called the built-ins. We put in fresh new built-ins into the bedroom closets and one in the hallway closet, which probably increased our price by about $2,000. The flooring was a typical cost. It was roughly around $4,000, but that included the underlay, the price of the floor, plus the insulation, and it included the baseboards. So all of that included for $4,000 was a very good price. We had painting for about $3,600. The plumbing work was $3,400. Drywalling and framing was a little more, and typically there isn't any drywalling or framing that occurs in my flips. But because we decided to scrape the popcorn ceiling, we had to incur about a $4,000 cost in that section. Electrical was about $2,100. Demolition was about $2,000. The countertops was $1,890. Tile work was $1,400. That included tile work for the two bathrooms and also the blinds were about $900. We had some deck lumber to refreshen the deck. Kitchen appliances were $2,100. That included the refrigerator, the range, and the dishwasher. The plumbing fixtures were around $1,600. That included the sink in the kitchen, the two sinks in the bathrooms, plus the new faucets, things of that nature. The washer and dryer was $1,400. We had bathroom deck tiles as well, which was around $900. A microwave, plumbing cap, the plumbing cap and filter, for about $50. Lock and bath hardware, ceiling lights, the shower rod was about $130. These are all, typical costs that you'll see in a flip. There's nothing out of the ordinary. Another thing that occurred was the garbage load. There was a few of these that occurred over time. There was $25 ones. There was a $15 garbage load. And this is all of the stuff that kind of added up to about $40,343.29. Now, in our list of the best and the worst, we're going to go over some of the line items that cost a little more than anticipated and some of the wins that we had along the ride for this project. The first one is the cabinets and the built-ins. So the cabinets and the built-ins were initially supposed to cost around $4,500. And that was just going to be the cabinets. There were going to be no built-ins that were going to be required for this project. But as the project went on, I thought it would add a lot of value for having built-ins instead of a traditional just shelf with a pole on it for hanging up clothing. The built-ins looked so much more better, and they kind of added a 2026 feel to a building that is probably 50 to 51 years old. So that was a purchase that went a little bit over anticipated. However, the ROI for that was great. I still put it in red, but it can definitely be a green line item for sure. The painting was about $3,600, and they did a great job painting the place. I think I can get this down to about $2,700 with another painter. However, the one that I used this time was actually just recognizing the community for the great work that they do along all their projects. So sometimes it does pay to pay a little extra and get some very good, strong quality work done. I'm going to continue on to the red sections first. So the drywall and framing cost about $3,700. And the reason for this is twofold. One, there was a leak in our bathroom unit that was coming from the unit above. So we had to actually take out some drywall, assess the problem, and then have the plumbers fix the issue. And then we'd have to patch up the ceiling. And then we were also scraping the entire unit ceilings because there were popcorn ceilings, and we wanted a nice flat look, just freshen up the unit. This is two things that don't typically happen in our condo flips. So because of that, there was an additional almost $4,000 price to our budget. Continuing on, electrical was done very well. They cost about $2,100. In the future, I'm going to try to get this down a little lower. I think I can find somebody that can do it for about $1,600 to $1,800. At the end of the day, even if I got $1,800 instead of $2,100, it's not that big of a difference because I rather pay the $2,100 and pay the additional, $300 if that means I'm getting quality and speed instead of slow and steady and bad quality. The demolition was also a little more expensive than anticipated. We were budgeting about $1,400 to $1,500. However, the original person that was planned to do this job went away on vacation, so we had to use a backup demolition team. They did a great job as well, just a little bit more than anticipated. Now let's go back up to the wins that we had. The plumbing work, I mentioned this in the previous video, and that was adding in-suite laundry just gives you so much more value for what you're gonna get when you are selling. And there are so many more people that will be looking at your flip because they also have a criteria. So a lot of people don't even look at units that don't have in-suite laundry. So right away, you might have a very awesome looking suite, but because you don't have in-suite laundry, you're disqualified right away and no one ever gets to look at your product. So adding the in-suite laundry was a huge success and a great ROI, in my opinion. I think the guy that I use is probably one of the best in the business. He does a great job and has a very reasonable price. For the kitchen and the bathrooms, it ran us about $1,900. And that's the key when you're doing some of these flips. The tile work was also a very decent price. We had the contractor come in and do the bathtubs. So there were 2 bathtubs and the kitchen as well. And it ran us about $1,400. I thought that was a really good win for us. and then our kitchen appliances and washer and dryer. So our appliances, pretty much in the entire house, ran us about $3,500. The kitchen appliances were the fridge, the range, and also the dishwasher, and they were $2,100. I think that's a steal of a deal. I believe Best Buy was having a deal that was ending very soon. So we were able to jump on that and get those appliances. I think this is something that would easily cost around 2,600 plus, depending on what kind of models you choose. So getting it for 2,100 was a really big win, and the washer and dryer were a great win as well. They're about $1,400. Great, great win for us. And then we had some little wins down the road for cleaning up. The last time I did a flip, it cost me about $500, and I also had to pay in cash last time. This time, I was able to just put it on my credit card, which is also a big win because now when you're going down the road, you can write that off. And we got it for $367.50. That was a big win. I thought that was a great, fair price. And then the garbage loads throughout the project, there's things that need to get put away. So the garbage loads cost us about $65 in total. Next time, though, I would say this. I wouldn't do the dump runs myself. I would just pack everything in a corner and then have somebody come and do like a junk removal one time. And instead of paying $65 and doing it myself, I'm sure I can find somebody that can do it for $125 to $150, maybe $200. But even at $200, I would still pay that amount because you're also saving time, right? And then these are some of the costs that you might forget about. So I just wanted to highlight some of them. The ones in the red are definitely some costs that people intend to forget about. Appraisal and inspection are probably the two out of the three that I have labeled that are not always forgotten, but sometimes people do forget to put that in their pro forma. But the one that people forget a lot is the discharge fee from the bank, because the way I do my flips is I get a traditional loan. So I'm putting down 20% and then I'm getting the other 80% financed. Because I'm flipping these so quick, I'm usually subject to a penalty, and the penalty can be anywhere from for me, it's usually anywhere between $3,500 to $4,500 because of the size of my mortgage. So you always want to take that into account. There is a way to get this back as well, though. So shoot me a message and I can tell you what I do to get this money back, because there is a nice, sweet little trick that you can use with the banks to get your discharge fee, your penalty back. The other line items that I have in yellow are interesting items because you are able to write them off for your year end, but you're actually not allowed to write them off for your flips. So I am not an accountant, so please always check in with your accountant to double check what I am saying, but this is what I've been told in the past. You cannot write off strata, utilities, insurance. Those are three things that are not able to be written off. I actually had my place staged as well. So you're not even allowed to write off the staging. So there are some line items in your renovation that are not able to be written off. Always discuss this with your accountant to ensure that what you have been told is correct. But those are the things that I've been told. So these will be getting written off for my year end taxes, but they won't be getting written off for my flipping tax that I have to file within 90 days of completing the flip. And over here, you can see at the bottom, my all-in cost was $501,272.87. So before we get into doing a little bit of math here, I just want to take you through some of the after pictures. You can see that there's the in-suite laundry that has been inserted into what was previously a hallway closet when you enter into the unit. So we got a brand new washer and dryer, and you can actually see in the top right picture one of the built-ins that was placed. That was also a closet that was a bifold closet, but now we have built-ins and they swing open at like a door, and there's also some shelving that was placed inside the closet as well. The cabinet makers that we use, I believe they're one of a kind. They do a great job. Again, if you ever need a contact for these cabinet makers, give me a message and I am happy to pass on the information to you. Here are some more pictures as well, and these are in the top left. You see some more built-ins. Again, that was just two closet doors that were bifolds, and now we have a built-in closet. It looks phenomenal. It gives it a really brand new updated look. And now for some math. So our purchase price for this was $420,000. All in, our costs were about $81,272.87, which meant between the renovations, the realtor commissions, the carrying costs, utilities, insurance, all of that, our all-in price for this condo was $501,272.87. Our sale price for this condo was $540,000, which means that we have a profit of $38,727.13. Now remember, we made this money in about 100 days, and we used roughly about $140,000 of liquid cash. So our returns are actually extremely phenomenal. We're getting great, great, great returns. So if you can actually do this 2 or 3 times a year, you're looking at returns that are, well above 50%. And if anybody is able to get 50% returns, those are just incredible, incredible numbers. So those are some of the numbers that have come up. And remember, I still have to pay the flipping tax on this number. And then from there, depending on how you structure your deal, if it was in a corporation, or if you did it in your personal name, there's also additional taxes that need to be paid. So always make sure that you're consulting with an accountant to make sure that you are doing the best you can to keep as much money in your pocket. Otherwise, the tax man is going to come for every dollar that you owe them. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, and there'll be more to come along the way. I actually have another unit that I'm going to begin renovating in the next week or so. So I'll be posting a lot more short form as well as long form content. So please stay tuned.